Good afternoon. I hope you are doing well today. I am Erin Ellis, and we will get started in just a moment. Before we get into new content, I want to ask those of you who are here, I have a poll question for you that should be popping up. There we go. Have you attended a PFCU webinar before? And so if you would just take a moment to answer this question for me so that I can know. Have you attended a PFCU webinar before? No, this is your first. Or maybe, yes, you were here last week for part one. Or you were here last week, you've attended others with me, and that would be the third answer. Okay, great. So just take a couple of seconds to answer that poll. I would appreciate it. It helps me sort of get to know how to guide this conversation. It is not necessary that you were here last week, but if you were, that's great, and welcome back, and thanks for coming again. I will be doing a part 3 next week, and I will give you more information on how to find that too as we proceed. Okay, great. So holy guacamole, everyone responded to the poll, which is maybe the first time I've ever seen that happen, either attending or running a webinar. So thank you very much for that. So that's great. So it looks like we've got a lot of new people here today, and then some people who are here next week, and then some repeat customers here, some of my folks who have visited more than one time. So great, wonderful. All right, well, let's get rolling right along here. For those of you who have not attended my webinars before, one of the hopefully most useful parts of this is that I will give you resources to take with you. So the idea is that there's a ton of information out there. I want to sort of simplify it for you and give you some key pieces rather than having to dig through the entire internet to find some good resources and tools. So that's the point. You're not going to do everything you need to do for your money today, but hopefully you will walk away with having made some accomplishments today. This is an active presentation, and then also having those tools to move forward. Great. Moving along. Just a tiny bit about PFCU. I imagine many of you are PFCU members, which is awesome. So you already know about PFCU, but for those of you who are not, or just to give you a little more information, we are not a bank. Credit unions are owned by our members, which means that in general, we don't charge the same amount of fees associated with commercial banking. So it's much cheaper usually to have an account with credit union. We also will pay higher interest than most of the traditional banks do too. All right. And again, just a reminder for those of you just joining, I do have 2 handouts attached, so you can access those at any time. I had a question about day 1 copy of that information, and the best way to get anything from last week that you would like is to send me an email. My email address is both on the resources, and you will see at the end of the presentation, and then I can email those out to you. So great question. Happy to send those out if you would reach out to me first. And maybe next time I'll attach. I don't like to overwhelm with too much information. Okay, and anyone who has a question or wants to reach out directly to me, please write into the questions box because I can see that. That's the best way to either comment to me or ask a question. All right. So this is the plan today. Last week we talked about goals and habits some, and today we're going to focus sort of on the next part of this budget, this spending plan, which is going to be looking at income and spending. And so we're going to spend a lot of time exploring our income and looking at some ways to increase it, looking at our spending and ways to decrease some of that. Eventually, next week, this is going to sort of culminate in looking at these strategies to improve cash flow in general. So we're looking to increase our cash, our income, our other financial resources, including public and employer benefits. And then we're looking at the same time to decrease spending, decrease our use of cash, and other financial resources. So when I talk about spending and income, both of that means resources, not just money. So we also want to then match the timing and of the income coming in, and of course where we're using it. So that's the ultimate goal, and next week we're going to put these pieces all together to create that cash flow budget. So if you are interested in putting this together to create a plan, please come back next week at the same time. You do have to register, and I will give you a link to that at the end too. Okay, so just a note before we get started, or we are getting started, but before we get too deep is, you know, it's great. We all know that if we want to stay financially healthy, we should spend less money than we earn. And that's great, but not always possible. So just want to acknowledge that saying these things, you know, you spend less money is only really helpful if we have enough money to pay all of our bills and pay for all of our living expenses. So we want to take this into consideration. And to address that, I do have a tool that will help you prioritize those bills in a tough time. So if it is a time, you know, this has been quite a year and moving into the next of challenge for many people. So take a look at the prioritizing bills tool, because you want to make a plan. Even if you can't pay all of those bills, you want to make a plan that's going to protect the things that you need to protect, whether it's your home, feeding your family, those sorts of things. If you just sort of ignore the hardships, and you know, you could really end up in more trouble. So the idea is to make a plan, as hard as it may be, to avoid those long-term consequences. All right. Now on to the fun stuff. Oof, this question doesn't sound fun, but I promise by the time you leave here, you will feel better than when we began today. At least that is my hope. So I want you to think about what % of Americans spend more money than they earn. So take a second. I don't want to spend too much time. Just take a guess. So the poll is up on your screen. What % of Americans spend more than they earn? Is it 16, 35, 54, or 72? What do you think? We'll give you a few more seconds to answer the poll. Maybe some of us here, I don't know. Okay, 5 more seconds to answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here's what the group said, and in fact, not bad. Pew did a study that shows that 54% of Americans spend more money than they earn. That's a lot of us. It's more than half of us. So it'd be fair to say many of us would fit into this category. That's a lot. I wonder, you know, how, but it certainly is not hard to do, considering most of us do it. Okay. Next question, one more poll. How much do Americans spend on monthly subscriptions? So in this, we'll look at subscriptions and memberships. So again, another poll posted up on the screen. Take a few seconds. What do you think? And you can answer, you know, what do you spend monthly on subscriptions? That's interesting. So this is subscriptions and memberships. So whether it's Netflix or that PlayStation thing, I don't know what they're called, or BJ's membership or that toothbrush that comes every 3 months, whatever it is. All right, I'm going to close the poll. Okay, you guys nailed it again. So, oh, my answer is slightly wrong. $237 a month is how much an average American spends on subscriptions. So that's quite a bit of money, $237. So according to the Wall Street Journal, research found that 84% of Americans underestimate how much they spend every month in subscriptions. So this is something that we're going to look at and examine today because we're trying to avoid this. 84% of us don't really know how much we're spending. So we're going to look at what are we actually spending, and then how can we make some changes to that, and where can we do that. Tools today that I have for you are coming primarily from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB. They are a federal organization created to empower people to make the best financial choices for themselves. They're also out to educate us and to make sure that we can grow our financial capability. And they also help, similar to the Federal Trade Commission, educate us so that we are better as consumers, making better choices, and protection from other companies. Okay. So those are some of the resources. They're a great tool, great resource to find other answers to financial questions you might have. So we started talking last time about savings and goals, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on this today because we're moving into the income and expenses section. But just want to mention some of this stuff becomes very relevant when we're talking about income and expenses. So we're starting with looking at our savings and goals and setting up some SMART goals. We're making sure too, as a foundation, that we have some emergency savings. We'll talk about that a little more in a second. It's really important to revisit goals, so we'll talk about that too. And then looking at those big purchases. So when it comes to emergency savings, many of us struggle. The rule of thumb has been 3 to 6 months of expenses to save for an emergency. That has been the recommendation. This can be extremely frustrating and discouraging. I find it discouraging. However, there is research that shows that starting with a $500 emergency fund, if an emergency savings is something that you've struggled with, as something important, it's a foundation for all of our savings and goals moving forward, is this emergency money. So starting with $500, there are a significant number of emergencies that can be covered with $500. I mean, many of them could think of probably a handful right now, right? You can replace 1 or more tires on your car. You might need to, in different days, fly to see a sick family member. That $500 would cover that cost to go visit that sick family member. You might need to pay for a minor medical cost, and that $500 would cover that bill. So once you get to that 500 mark, then reaching for that 1,000 next, and that's the next step. So really looking at then at $1,000, you might be able to pay for your rent or pay for a part of your rent or a mortgage for 1 month. You might be able to take care of an insurance deductible for a major car repair, or maybe it would put a dent certainly in a major household repair that you had. So those are 2 really good starting points when it comes to savings for emergencies. And just to sort of remember that these are the foundations. So we want to have these so that we can continue to move forward with all of our other goals. We want to revisit these goals too. So whatever our goals are, they might require that we come back and revisit them. And so this is relevant to our conversation today about income and expenses, because we're looking at has my circumstance changed, right? And if we're looking at things that we have traditionally spent money on this past year, maybe my circumstances have changed. And I know mine have, and it's going to come into play in some of the ways that I've made changes to spending money and saving money this past year. And so we want to look back towards those goals and say, you know, what circumstances have changed? Because there could be different life events that change something, right? I lost a job, or I'm earning more money. Maybe I'm not paying daycare. Maybe I'm paying more daycare than I thought I was. Can we sense a theme here with the daycare? We want to review our new situation and make sure that our goals still make sense. Do the goals that we have, does the way that we're spending money match up with the current circumstances? So we want to make sure we're considering this. And again, another really useful tool I have linked here that you can take a look and sort of evaluate these goals to see maybe you're not making the savings goals that you were in 2019 and you really just need to reevaluate. Maybe you used up your emergency savings in 2020. Oof. And you need to sort of think about how are we going to replenish that, and what else do I need to think about first? Your goal might not feel as important. I find that there are a lot of things that I've been saving for that I won't be doing in the near future as much as I want to. My partner says we will not be flying off to take a vacation in 2021. He's right, to be fair, but so that's another way that goals can change. They're not as important or they're not as relevant. So we want to make sure we're revisiting those. All right. When it comes to income, so we've taken a look at our goals and made sure they're still relevant to what we're doing. We made sure that they are important to us and they make sense. And now we're going to dig in to make some of these adjustments. So we want to manage our income and benefits because that is what's essential to financial empowerment. A lot of people don't think too much about their income beyond the amount of money that we receive. But we want to think too, not just about the cash coming in, but about the timing and the predictability of what is coming. So this will help us take control of our finances. If we don't have enough money, it's important to look at strategies either to bring in more income or resources. So we're going to be talking today about both income and resources because resources can either bring in more income or resources can allow us to use less income, right? So maybe a resource that I have is the dependent care account. So I can save money pre-tax to pay for daycare. So we'll get into this a little more, but that's essentially saving money that I have to pay out in the long run. So a really important resource to look at and to think about for your own uses are benefits. So we'll be looking at some of this in more detail, but benefits are an important financial resource. They can cover some essential living expenses that we have. And that's why it's an important thing to track the benefits the same way we track your income. Benefits could be benefits through your job. They could be those SNAP benefits or food stamp benefits. There are a lot of different types of benefits. They are not as flexible as income. So you want to make sure you're using those benefits most efficient way possible. All right. We're going to look at a few different types of expenses. We're going to look at that regular income. We're going to look at that irregular income, any seasonal income you might have, and one-time occurrence. All right, so let's talk about the money first. When it comes to income, we want to plan for unexpected, irregular, and one-time income. Recently, hopefully, we've gotten that stimulus money, and if not, hopefully you have a plan to get it in the future with doing your taxes. I should bring a resource for that. Next week, I will bring a resource for that about doing your taxes. So stay tuned for that. One agency locally that will help you do free income tax preparation is the Campaign for Working Families. So in lieu of having a direct link to them, I will mention the Campaign for Working Families is a great resource for free income tax preparation assistance. They are doing it virtually this year, so I would recommend check out their website and see if you can get hooked up with them when it comes time to do your taxes. So, okay, so planning for unexpected, irregular, and one-time income. For example, this might come as unanticipated overtime, extra hours at work, maybe you got a bonus, maybe you're getting a tax refund, maybe it's the stimulus payment that you were supposed to receive, have not received yet, or maybe we're going to get the rest of that $2,000 in the future. Who's to say? But we want to think about this and make sure we're including it in our plan, because this is income. All of these things are income, right? We want to plan for it. If you get paid bi-weekly, there are 2 months a year when you get 3 paychecks instead of 2. So how can you use that to your advantage? You want to make sure that you're using those unexpected dollars to your best advantage. And the way to do that is to just plan, right? So that extra paycheck that you get, yes, of course you have weekly expenses, but you might also be able to take a few $100s and put it towards something else that you need to do later in the year. Maybe that's where that emergency fund comes from. Maybe that tax refund is what that is. We have seen the trend in the United States since the pandemic that people have been saving a lot more. Didn't say we have more money, I said we're saving a lot more. So it's just an interesting thing to think about and making sure we're planning ahead. And it seems like people are pretty focused right now on making sure that we are in fact planning ahead. We talked about the tax refund and making a plan for it ahead of time. It's a great time to do that now if you haven't already. I like to know, here's where my little bit of money is going, because if I don't plan for it, then it just simply flies out of my account like magic. All right. And then in general, there are 2 ways to bring home more income, right? There are the ways through a one-time activity. Maybe you sell something online or on a stoop sale, or you see if there are additional tax credits you can claim to increase your refund. Or, so there's, that one-time thing, or you can increase your income on a regular basis. So maybe you get an additional part-time job, or you apply for a public benefit like food stamps or LIHEAP. Maybe you start a small business, right? So these are more regular. There are a lot of ideas about ways to earn one-time activity or on a regular basis. So not all of them are going to work for everyone, but we're going to focus on what would seem to make sense for you and your family, what's realistic. And so eventually we're going to talk about reducing spending, but in the meantime, we're going to look at increasing our income. Okay, and I think, excuse me as I flip through my slides here. All right, we're going backwards. Okay, so before we talk about increasing our income through extra, earning that extra money, we're going to look at increasing our benefits. So 2 kinds of benefits I want to mention today, and these cover many people and many categories. So one kind of benefit is going to be a public or government benefit. And many of us would think of something like food stamps, maybe we're familiar with, which is SNAP, right, to help you with food if you qualify based on your income and your family size. I know many of us, if we had a child in school, we had that food stamp assistance over the last year. So that is one example. So we have other types of public or government benefits, and all of these different benefits that you might qualify for, you can find out through one location, and it's called Benefili. So there is a Benefili phone number on this slide, and it will also be included in your handout. But just to let you know, this is sort of the one-stop shop for all of the benefits that you could potentially qualify for, whether city, state, or federal. So Benefili will run you through and look at 19 different benefits that are supported. In 2019, they delivered an average of $4,000 in benefits to each household they served. So truly, you don't know until you make that phone call and find out if there's something that you would qualify for that you didn't know that you did. Anything from food stamps, as I mentioned, medical assistance or Medicare, to property tax rebate, unemployment insurance. Let's see some of these others. Obamacare, or maybe heating assistance. You might qualify for a tax credit. They can help you access that. They can also make sure if you qualify for any other utility assistance programs through the city, that you can be qualified for those. So really useful. The homestead exemption, totally worth a phone call to them. You will leave a message and they will call you back, and then they can sort of run you through these benefits to see what is it that you qualify for. So really great resource for everybody in Philly. Even if you think, you know, I probably don't qualify for that, it's worth a phone call to see, because they do help with a variety of benefits. Including the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA. So you just don't know until you ask, right? So that's a good theme for the day. The other kind of benefit that you might qualify for, or you want to make sure you're really maximizing, is your employer benefits. And this is something you would have to talk with your employer about to make sure that you are receiving the benefits that you should, in fact, that you could most benefit from. Are you taking advantage of a 401k match? Does your job offer you a flex spending account that might be useful to you that you're not using? So this is a tax benefit, right? This is an Advantage card, an Advantage account if you have medical expenses. I'm not going into detail on this, but it's absolutely something that you should reach out to your HR. It's their job to help you to determine if you are really taking advantage to your best interest to some of these things. Maybe you still get commuter benefits and you don't need them anymore because you're not commuting. So that might be something to consider, and you just want to reevaluate and revisit some of that. Okay, so you have to know what's coming in before you plan for what's being spent. So we looked at, just in general, different types of benefits and income. We also want to then keep track of it. So let's look at tracking the money and benefits we receive. And this little fill-in sheet is attached in the handouts. And so you will have it, but this is the idea that, you know, I'm keeping track of weekly what's coming in from the jobs, what's coming in from anything else I'm doing. And in this case, this is, this example, they make $18 an hour, and they have that other at the bottom, you can see, is a dependent care account. And so that is a benefit through the employer that you put that money in pre-tax. So just to make sure we're keeping track of not just the cash coming in, but any benefits as well that really will go to change our bottom line. Okie doke. You can write it out on paper. You can put it in a spreadsheet. You can use an app. Doing this by hand is not a bad idea. I like to write everything down. It helps me sort of connect to it on a deeper level. It seems to be There are research that goes along with the idea of doing things by hand as a helpful way to learn, to make sure you're really connecting with it. So, all right. So this is the master list of different ways that we're going to look to increase income and benefits. And so as we're going through these, if you think any are a great fit for you, or you have another suggestion, please type it into the question and I will share it with the group. Because if you have one of these, I'll do some of the talking, but if you have any suggestions, if you have any comments on these, it'd be great if we could have other voices besides my own. So type that right into the question box and I will share it with the group. I'm going to go through some of these, and as I'm doing it, I would say grab a piece of paper or the notes app on your phone, or pull up, an empty email that you can email yourself if you're sitting at your computer. We're going to think about some of these ways and brainstorm how you can use these. And I'm going to ask you in a minute to choose one of these different options for yourself. What is the first way you're going to explore to look to increase your income and benefits? What's something that you can do? So we'll talk through these, and then I'm going to ask you to choose your own at the end of this. So increasing income and benefits, again, there is a tool and you'll have a lot more details on this, but one idea. So here are some of the ideas. We're going to go through the list. Use your skills and resources. I can use skills like childcare, yard work, etc. Right? I can do those things for money. I can use my talents and hobbies. Maybe I can make something and sell it. Can I trade skills with friends? This is a great one, and this is a resource rather than necessarily an income. And pandemic changes a lot of things, but I'm thinking in particular trading skills with friends. I trade childcare with friends from time to time. That's something that we do for each other so we don't have to pay for babysitters. Running errands, again, you can trade that, but it could also be something you do for money, right? Could you be a rideshare driver? This is a little more intense to do something like Uber. Rent a room in your house. You have to, of course, check out your lease. And this is not right for everyone, but another idea. Are there job opportunities? So another way to increase your income is to look for, asking for a raise or extra hours at the job. Is that a possibility? Or is it possible that you could look for a part-time job? There are also opportunities for training or education to increase the wages that you make at your current job. If you check out the PA career link, which I'll give you more information about, you might be able to get free training that would increase the pay that you make right now. For some of that one-time income, can you sell something? My partner has a way of finding things to sell, often electronics that are no longer being used. So there might be some things that you could sell online, sell produce from your garden if you grow it in the spring and summertime. We talked more about some of those government options already, calling Benephilly to see if you qualify for any of those state, city, federal utility credits. Are there any other tax credits? Free tax preparation is an excellent resource for that with the Campaign for Working Families. And again, I'll bring a resource for that next week. Can you change your tax withholding? If you are used to getting a big refund and you're comfortable, you can make a change to your tax withholding. We'll talk about that in a second. So let me actually share that. It's on the next slide. Are there employer benefits that you could talk to your human resources department about and make sure you're really taking advantage of everything that you have to offer? If anyone has any other suggestions about ways to increase income, please put it in the question box and I would love to share it with the group. These are just some ideas. We talked a lot about Benephilly, but just to give you a little more information about changing your tax withholding, if you do get a large refund, some people really, they like that refund. They use it, of course, to pay off debts and to save and to do other things because it's great to have that lump sum. On the other hand, you are loaning the government your money for the year, right? It's your money. They're holding it until the end of the year. So if you would prefer to have it in your paycheck, you can change your W-4. And you can do that anytime you want. The IRS actually has a really great tax withholding tool, an estimator tool. The new W-4 is super confusing. I am saying this based on my own experience. And the tool is really helpful and really great. I did this last year, about a year ago, and handed it into my employer. My partner also did it. We used the tax withholding estimator tool. It populates the form for me. So all I have to do is print it out and hand it to HR, and they will update then my tax withholding, which means that now I get more money in my paycheck and a smaller refund. So during the year, I have more money to pay my bills, more money to save and do what I want to do. Now my refund is smaller, but I'm preferring this. I would rather have the job now. The other thing that is useful with the new W-4 is that if you have a gig job, if you drive Uber or Lyft or Instacart or any of the other gig jobs that have become extremely popular and common right now, and you do need to pay quarterly taxes. So you can adjust the W-4 for your non-gig job, to take out more taxes from that other job. Okay, so I'm going to give an example. I work at PFCU and I work at Uber. If this applies to you, the new W-4 will help. So then instead of paying those quarterly taxes for Uber and paying a ton of cash out of pocket, I can have more taxes taken from my PFCU job. If that makes sense. And so you can adjust that W-4 to better suit your needs. There are also free education and training opportunities offered through the Pennsylvania Career Link. And these are all available right now online. So there's a lot of good options, a great resource there in terms of finding education and training opportunities. They will help anyone in the state of Pennsylvania. They have specific programs, excuse my dog, that can help people with disabilities, mature workers, people re-entering the workforce, students, youth, veterans, you name it. So they really have a good option for anyone. All right, so here are the different sort of general categories, and I'm going to put up a poll and ask you to choose one of these. After today, moving forward, which is one of these areas that you will choose? So will you use skills and resources? And of course, there's a lot of options in that category. Will you look at for job opportunities or expanding your job opportunities, selling things? So take a look and choose one. So I want you to choose one on the poll that's available now. What are one of these things that you might find that you want to explore in order to increase your income? All right, so take a look and see. And within each of these categories, there's a variety of things you can do. Give you a couple more seconds to do the poll that's up on the screen. So the first category, skills and resources, look for job opportunities, selling household items, tax withholding or other benefits, or talk with your HR about other options. All right. Okay, so we have a variety here, which is awesome. Oh, I had somebody that moved. I'm assuming to save some money, right? So different choices about where we are and what we're doing right now really make a big difference. All right, great. And I will show you, I'm going to link to it, assuming, and I'll show you what this looks like just a second. Okay, so this is the increasing income and benefits tool. And it goes through some of these options that we just talked about and gives you a tiny bit more detail. And so you can then, this is what I want to do, right? I want to earn extra money with skills I have. You can brainstorm here and write out your own ideas. So this is one of the handouts that I have attached for you. It's in the PDF. So you can see, and there's a lot of great ideas, and then leave room for you to trade things. Trade babysitting. And right now this looks different for me, but I'll tell you what it does look is that meeting friends at the playground. So still getting maybe that chance. I'll stay at the playground with the kids for 2 hours while you go to the store or whatever the case may be. So it still is an option. We just have a little more, and I think probably something that so many people I've talked to this year have done really well is being creative. And that's all about what this section is about, is being creative. So you will have an opportunity to really dig through and do some of that on your own. All right. So we've looked at options for increasing income. And the next thing we're going to look at is spending. So we're going to look at our spending when it comes to large periodic or annual expenses. And then we're also going to look at monthly spending. What is that day-to-day stuff? And the day-to-day stuff can make or break us. I know some of my personal challenges have more to do with the day-to-day spending than the big stuff for whatever reason. Not that the big stuff is easy, but it's really the day-to-day where I end up spending too much on the little things. And this, I think, is pretty common and definitely has a lot to do with the way we live and the choices we make every day, these little micro choices that we're making all the time. So we're going to look at making changes to how we spend money, but we have to know what is going on with our needs, our wants, and our obligations. So usually we can only really make changes around our wants, right? We need to have food, we need certain groceries in the house. Our obligations are things like loans or child support, stuff we have to pay, right? We don't, the reason it's an obligation, child support, you of course are obliged to pay. You have to pay it, right? It doesn't keep you alive. Interesting, it might be good, obviously, the child, but it's that obligation, it has to be done. So we need to look at those three things, and again, we're looking at the wants and where we can sort of make those cuts. Paying bills on time can help you avoid late fees, help you avoid fines, increased cost of services, and decreases on your credit score. So being on top of these expenses as they come up actually will save you money in the long run. So we want to make sure we're looking at all of this and what our obligations and what our needs and wants are. If you're finding that you're spending too much, you can apply some of these strategies for cutting spending. So you want to be clear about what categories are needs, wants, and obligations before you start cutting spending. And of course, sometimes you cannot cover all of the things that you need, want, and are obligated in a month. And so that's why that that tool that I gave you at the beginning about prioritizing bills, that's when that would come in and be very helpful. And I'll make sure to say here, any bills, expenses that you are struggling with, the best thing you can do is to make a phone call, reach out to that company during COVID, especially, but anytime if you are struggling to pay any bill, the best thing you can do is to make a phone call and reach out and make an arrangement, whether it is, short-term or long-term. But generally speaking, people don't want you to stop paying because they want you to continue to pay. So they would rather have you pay next month than not at all. So really good idea to just make sure you're keeping in touch with those. I use child support as an example. If you are in touch with child support because your income has changed, then they can make changes to that obligation. So it's just a rule across the board. Don't ignore that bill. Make a phone call. You're always going to be better off, even if it's a pain in the neck. Even, there's no reason to feel embarrassed or shameful, but always call. Always call. And if you do have to skip a payment, make sure you're doing it with, after you're making a phone call, consider what you need first, right? If you need your car to get to and from your job, maybe that credit card payment is the one you negotiate with, and that car payment you make sure is paid because you need the job to get to work, right? So you have to sort of take those things into consideration. Okay. It's important too to think about these bigger purchases. In particular, we're going to look at annual expenses, but you want to think about those life events, both planned and unplanned. I know that one day my kids are going to college or will be at least leaving the house, probably. I know that eventually we're going to need to replace our car. So I want to be sort of thinking about these things and planning ahead for them. I might not be putting money aside for them at this moment, but I want to be thinking about them and not ignoring them, because if I ignore them completely, then that will just cause more stress and anxiety. This is one of my favorite things I do for my own family every year. And this is where I look at annual expenses. Some months are more expensive in my household than others. So I really like to take a look at this ahead of time and make sure that I know whose birthday, do I have enough money for their birthday? What comes up in November? Thanksgiving is going to cost us a few dollars because we're buying all that extra food, even if it's just my family, right? Maybe I'm planning a trip this summer. I'm not, I don't know. We're going camping. Okay, so that's going to be something I plan for, right? Is it a birthday? Is it a graduation coming up? Do you have a friend getting married? Are you getting married? So whatever these annual expenses are, or semi-annual, I do pay my car insurance every 6 months, and I do that because it's a really big discount. It used to be that it wasn't, and now it is. So that's something that I plan for. So this helps me a lot because these are sort of those periodic expenses that really kind of gum up my monthly bills. So I really like this. And then I can sort of throughout the year make sure I'm putting money aside. Let's see, my daughter's birthday is in March, so I'm going to start thinking about that now. Right? I won't necessarily need a ton of money because I don't plan to spend a ton of money this year, but I'm going to need some. So I want to make sure I have it. And again, this tool will be one attached in the handouts. Okay. All right. So the details. Now we're going to track your spending. How are you going to do it? You can pick your poison, right? Choose however you want to, but the tool I'm giving you, and I will show it to you. In just a second. we go. This categorizes everything, and then you just write it in. How much are you spending on your cell phone each week, whichever week that you pay your cell phone bill? And so these are really great. You can use them to type in. It will add up for you. So these are really useful tools, and it helps you figure out which category everything goes into. This is one option. And the recommendation, and again, we're focusing here on, I'm giving you the one tool to make it as streamlined and easy as possible. So this tool is saying, collect all your receipts for the month. I don't have receipts because I'm not going to stores. That might be relatable. So what I do is usually I use my debit card for everything. So I'm going to pull that information right from, my TellerNet on my PFCU account, and I can actually, import it into a spreadsheet if I want. Or if that doesn't make sense to you, write it down. And so there are a lot of different ways, whether it's keeping the receipts or using your statement to make sure that you really are tracking, and take a look at it, because this is where you're going to see, where can I cut back? I split mine into additional categories based on problem areas. So I need to know where it is. Problem areas, I can give you an example. You might guess would be like Amazon and Target. So I'm going to look at those and really examine, because those are broad categories, and I need to see, well, on Amazon, am I spending it on things both that I want and need, and sure, and how can I differentiate what I'm doing to make sure that I'm getting the things that I really care about and the things that are most important to me first. So keeping track of this for a month rather than just a week or two, I'm going to see everything in one place. So there are a lot of times small things that we're spending our money on that just don't match what our priorities are. So here's the step-by-step. You get a small container or envelope, or simply a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, and every time you spend that money, stick it in there, right? Stick it in your envelope. Even write it down on a piece of paper and stick it in the envelope, right? And then look at it. Go through those receipts and figure out how much you spend doing, thank you, Michelle, great, doing it monthly, right? I have been doing this now, and I start, 1 week at a time, because it's a lot to do the whole month. I haven't yet stuck with it for a really long time, but so to share a little, my partner and I have decided we're done with spending excessively for a little while, hopefully. So we are trying to spend just mostly on needs for the month. So anything that is not something we need, we're going to take a few days before we really buy it. And so far, so good. It's the 12th. All right, not too bad. 13th. Doing fairly well, I would say. And so this is going to make it a lot easier for us to analyze. And take a look. Okay. Yeah. And depending on when you get paid, so Michelle put in the question that she gets paid monthly. So yeah, you want to look at it monthly, right? You have to know the whole month. And from week to week, I have those big monthly bills. So I'm going to need to know that I have enough coming in and what I need going out for something like my mortgage or my rent or my daycare expenses that I have. I know I talk about daycare a lot. It's so expensive. So, okay. All right. So let's look at it. What do we do? Okay. Here are, again, we've got the big ideas here, and I'm going to ask you in a moment to choose, and we're going to look at two categories. We talked at the beginning about how the average American spends $237 on memberships. So we're going to split expenses into two categories. We're looking at memberships and subscriptions in one category and everything else in the other, because those memberships and subscriptions are so much of our wants are falling into those categories, some of our needs too, but that is often a place where we have a lot of wiggle room in those memberships and subscriptions. It's also, I think, a problem area for many of us now because it's sort of grown slowly over the last little while to become quite substantial. So yeah, so we'll go through these a little bit, and then you guys will have a chance to pick for yourself what's going to make the most sense for cutting expenses. So not all of these apply to you, but think about what might be best for you, and then you're going to look into getting more resources about that. Feel free to talk about them with others in your household and start implementing the strategies as soon as possible. I mentioned my partner and I, we need to be on the same page as this. And that's something that we do talk about often, more than he would like to, but it's important that we're both on the same page. That helps me figure out my own worry and anxiety surrounding money, is to just have those conversations. So some of it is just about that. So maybe something that you do with your car, right? So let's go through the list. Car expenses. I'm going to renew my license and registration to avoid late fees. Avoid getting that ticket because your inspection is up and you parked on the street. Make sure you're getting regular oil changes and replacing your tires when needed so that you can avoid a big problem in the future if you have a car, right? Again, not all of this applies to everyone. We live in a city. You might be taking the bus or walking. Eating out. Are we working on bringing lunch? I know, if you're working from home, it might be a easier option, but we also might be getting stuff delivered more often. So that is something to think about for lunch at work, or maybe you just eliminate sodas, right? You still get the lunch, you still get the food, you just don't get the drink. Maybe that's one way that you're saving. Or look for discounts. Maybe it's that IHOP has free kids meals whatever day a week, and that's the day you go out for dinner. Although please don't go out for dinner if you don't have to, right? I can say that, right? Okay, next category, looking at any accounts you have, any financial services that you're using. Research your accounts. Are there maintenance fees? Are you paying ATM fees? Are you paying a fee to check your balance? Do you end up paying overdraft fees often? Are you cashing your checks and that's costing you a fee? Whatever it is, figure out where you're paying those fees and then look for a way to switch. Is there a lower fee or no fee account? PFCU, definitely a credit union, is an excellent choice for this because PFCU has no fee for checking and no fee for savings. If you are paying fees, then explore that a little more. Why are you paying those fees and what are some ways to avoid them? Switch to a different credit card. If you have a credit card with an annual fee, ask them to waive the fee, right? You just don't know. Another thing you can do when it comes to credit cards is you can ask them to waive the interest for a month or lower your interest rate. Most people who ask, I think it's just over half of the people who ask for their interest rate on their credit card to be lowered have success. So it's worth a try. If you like or are looking for furniture, clothing, look for secondhand furniture, clothing. Are there certain sales that you can wait for? When it comes to this too, coupons, people love the coupons and sales and things like this. I tend to be very skeptical and really cautious around them because I find, coupons are marketing, right? They want us to buy more. I tend to shop more when I have coupons. So it's something that you want to do cautiously, right? If you know you're going to buy it, then look for the coupon versus the other way around. So at this point, I've unsubscribed from anyone who signs me coupons, even if it's a company that I use from time to time, because it's too easy for me to want a good deal. So it's something to consider with coupons. Maybe you can join with family or friends to buy groceries and supplies in bulk and cut the cost that way. Look to see if you are eligible for any energy assistance, weatherization programs, or discounted utility rates. And this is something that Benefili can help you with. It is also LIHEAP season, which is heating assistance, and you can apply for that through the Department of Human Services. Anyway, welfare, we know what that is, right? I'm trying to think, my husband works for them. I'm giving you the real language here, but you can absolutely apply for that. LIHEAP to see if you qualify and if you can get money towards your utility bills. I will change my thermostat. This one is one I do not like to do. You know, weatherize the house, make sure that the thermostat is a little lower during the winter and a little higher during the summer. I will unplug appliances when I'm not using them. This is very important for those of us working at home, right? It is not only more, it's tempting to leave them plugged in, but it's also easier to unplug them since we're at home, if you are. I will increase the deductible on my car insurance to lower my premium payment. Now, this is very specific. Can you afford a higher deductible, right? But that is an option. I will ask for another discount from my insurance provider or shop around for better rates. This is a really good one to revisit from time to time. I know I changed my insurance recently because I'm driving a lot less than I was a year ago. I also will shop around for insurance from time to time and usually find just by switching companies with the same exact plan, I save quite a bit of money. So it's definitely worth revisiting insurance, just calling them and asking them, you know, are there any discounts that I'm not receiving? And maybe shopping around to other companies just to make sure you're getting the best rate for what you want. Memberships, gyms, discount stores. Oh, I've got a list for you. Okay. So this is going to go under the category memberships, streaming, TV, internet. We're going to look at all these just a second. But one last thing, a phone. Do you have a super high phone bill? Would it be worth considering a prepaid phone if you are maybe not in the middle of a contract? And that might be something that could save you a lot of money. Would you qualify for Lifeline, which is an Obama phone, what they're called by many people, so that you can get that phone for free, right? Maybe you can pay less for your other phone, or maybe that phone is enough for you if you have Wi-Fi at home. So there are other options too to explore than just, you know, what we have all sort of gotten roped into, those high monthly 2-year contract cell phone bills. So there are lots of options to explore. All right, so I just was Googling some common subscriptions, and I'm gonna go through a list quickly. Oof, are we sick of lists? I'm sick of lists. Hang on, I'm gonna give you a question. All right, so this is a 2-part question. We've got areas to explore decreasing my spending. And this is everything but subscriptions and memberships. So this is all of the other types of spending. So take a second and see which is one that you feel like you could make some changes in your spending. So the poll is up. All right, a couple more seconds for the poll. And this is going to look different for everyone. All right, closing the poll. So it looks like a lot of us like to buy food out, right? And that's one area. That's mine. I know that's definitely one that sneaks up. And you know, right now it's hard to find something different, something exciting, or something that sort of brings us joy. So it's been something that I'm really trying to find other areas to bring joy into and excitement other than takeout. right? So what are some other things I could do to sort of enjoy myself and make things fresh and new and fun besides just buying food? So yeah, it looks like a lot of you, it might look different for everyone, but definitely the big category. And then those financial fees that we're paying, right? These are things that if we might get roped into paying them month after month. And if we can get those sort of in control, it can really have some long-term positive effects. So definitely worth exploring those and taking a look. I had one mistaken charge today for my Amazon account, and I was on chatting with customer service for about 25 minutes, and they gave me $10. So I feel like it was worth it, right? And that's because I really persisted with them. They charged me wrong, and I wanted to make sure that it was going to be rectified, and eventually it was, right? So, persistence paid off, even though it's super annoying. But the same thing I think goes with all of those fees that might not seem like a lot at the time, but end up adding up over the weeks or months. All right. Okay. So the next area is going to be those memberships. And so I went through and found this list, and it's like the 23 most common things, subscriptions and memberships that you can cut. So I'm going to rattle them off. I'm sick of my own voice, but I'm going to rattle them off. Online gaming services, cable package, gym membership, Ancestry. I didn't even know that existed, that you could have a subscription to that. Netflix premium cable channels like HBO or Showtime. They recommend, cancel when your favorite series ends and add it back when it comes back. Interesting. Music streaming. Maybe you pay for more than one, or maybe you don't use one, or maybe Fitbit Premium. Certain phone apps for premium options. Maybe they started automatically renewing and now you're paying for it. Amazon Prime, Target and Walmart both offer free 2-day shipping without a subscription. Interesting. And do you really need that thing in 2 days? Interesting. Subscription boxes. Do you get something for your pets, lifestyle, beauty, whatever? Ebook subscriptions. We've got the free library. They have wonderful resources. I requested books yesterday. Nope, the day before yesterday, they came in yesterday. So wonderful, right? I'm going to pick them up tomorrow. Do you pay for cloud storage? I do. Is there a better way to do it than paying $3 a month? Probably. Meal kits like HelloFresh or Blue Apron. Do you pay for credit monitoring? Come to my credit webinars next month. You will learn how to avoid that. You will get the same services for free. Are you paying for identity theft monitoring? Same answer. You don't need those. There are better ways of doing it. Do you have online magazine subscriptions or online newspaper subscriptions that you're not using? Are you using 100 different streaming services? I don't have cable, but I do have Hulu and Netflix and YouTube, whatever, Premium, and PlayStation, Apple TV, Disney Plus, blah, 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 blah. Food delivery, if you have those subscription services for those food deliveries. Warehouse membership, Sam's Club, Costco, any massage or spa, store delivery options like Shipt or Instacart. So the list goes on and on. On that note, which of these memberships or subscriptions can you examine to make sure it's worthwhile, number one, and you're getting the best price? So another poll, and this is the poll that's going to address your subscriptions and your memberships. And insurance. And I would really encourage you, after we're done today, to make a list of the different subscriptions and memberships you have. Put them all in one place and look at them all at once and see what it's actually costing you. All right, another couple seconds for the poll. All right, cable, phone, Wi-Fi, right? We can change our plan, shop around, streaming services. Probably many of us could pick one in each category, but it's great to think about, okay, where are you going to start, right? We have all these different categories. Where are you going to start? You're going to start with insurance. You're going to start with, your phone. Pick it, choose it right now, and decide that when we're done here, or sometime today, or by the end of the week, you're going to address one of these areas. Okay. A little plug for Clarify and the financial empowerment centers. These are Clarify is a local nonprofit that does free financial counseling. They offer free financial counseling services throughout the city and the Philadelphia area. They run what's called the Financial Empowerment Centers. So you'll see Financial Empowerment Center and Clarify, it's the same organization. PFCU partners with them to do one-on-one counseling. So if you are dealing with debt, if you are dealing with foreclosure or want to avoid foreclosure, if you have some credit card debt, if you are struggling in any other way, if you want someone to sit down with you over the phone and really create a solid spending plan based around your goals, Clarify is an excellent free opportunity for you to really take advantage. So since the Financial Empowerment Centers have launched, which was in March 2013, they have provided counseling for over 12,500 individuals. And that's locally. So really an outstanding organization. They are nonprofit, which means that their interest is in you doing, achieving those goals and doing better for yourself. They are not making money off of you. So a really good organization, can really help you one-on-one. They're available by phone right now, and they're making appointments. So really encourage everybody to check out Clarify. All right, so we looked at, briefly talking about savings and goals, looking at ways to increase our income and making sure that we're tracking it, looking at then tracking our spending and ways to decrease our spending. So this was our agenda for today. And the next step in this then is, to take some of the tools that I'm giving you today and explore them and sort of, figure out how they apply to you and where your expenses fit in and your income fits in. And next week, please come back. We will be talking about cash flow. So we're going to use what we did today and again, build on it for next time to say, how are we going to look at when this money comes in? The timing matters. This will help us identify where I'm falling short or where I have those additional resources to cover other expenses. So I want to make sure that I can pay that big monthly rent or mortgage, and so I want to make sure the money is in the right place at the right time. That's basically what that means. So that's going to be the next step in this process. So I'm going to put up some action items for the day for today, and I'm also going to share, again, I'm going to show you what the handouts look like so you can see what you have access to. And the handouts are probably my favorite part of this, to be able to give you some really useful information. So action items from today. I will track my income, including benefits. The next item, I will explore increasing my income using this technique. So most of you picked one of the techniques that I shared with you. And it doesn't have to be one of those, could be a different one. And it says explore. So it doesn't mean you have to, do this today, but you're going to research it. You're going to think about it. You're going to write it down. When are you going to do it? Maybe the end of the week, the end of January, by the next class next Wednesday, whenever that is. I will track my expenses by keeping receipts for a month. And again, receipts could be you write down $3 on a piece of paper and put it in the envelope, right? Keep track of those things. Look at the last month, the last 30 days, and see where your money has gone. I will explore decreasing my spending using this technique. So again, I gave you that list and most of you chose one of those techniques that you're going to use to explore decreasing your spending. When are you going to do that? So again, mine is like no takeout. So far, January 13th, right? Have not gotten takeout yet, right? So far, so good. Which doesn't mean I'm not going to have it ever again, but I want to make sure that I'm spending according to what I care about most, and it's not always takeout. So, okay, so I will show you what the handout looks like, and again, it's right on the control panel there. And I'm going to share this for you. So you can click on it and save. If you want to save the PDF, save it now. I will not be emailing out these resources. If you would like them, you can email me and I will respond back to you with either a recording if you'd like it, or with these resources from either today or last week. So email if you want these resources. However, you have access to them right here. So you can access them right now if you want them. And save the PDF. And so this is a clickable PDF. So this is a link to register for next week. If you do want to come to next week, please register. And that registration you can find right here. You have to register in order to get the link. You cannot use today's link. So you need to register for next week, and you can do that right here. You can email me anytime with questions. And then the rest of this is just links to those resources that I mentioned, whether it's prioritizing your bills or the phone number for Benephilly, increasing your income and benefits tool. Oh, I also just included this restaurant. Star Fusion happens to be a local business that has been thriving, that started from one person's kitchen. Miss Darlene, I can't remember her last name. She started in her own kitchen selling food and has built it into a business, right? So kind of just a cool little story, and she has shared with some other local organizations that I work with. So really cool example of that small business that built from home. There is that IRS tax withholding estimator I mentioned. So you can make sure if you do get a big refund, but you'd rather have more money in your paycheck, you can adjust that here. Information on the Pennsylvania Career Link, if you're looking for that free training. And then some of the expenses tools that we looked at, including that monthly January, whose birthday is coming up, what do I need to save for, and cutting expenses. And then the last little resource here is several ways to access Clarify. This is all the same thing. So if you are a PFC member, you can call this number here, 855. You can also reach them through the financial empowerment centers or this phone number. It's all Clarify, just to be confusing. But you can reach Clarify any of those ways. And I would really encourage you to have that one-on-one phone call with them to sort of really make sure you're on your way to achieve those goals and answer any questions you have about credit card debt or whatever it is that has to do with your personal finance. At the end, when you exit out of this, a survey will pop up, and I would ask you to please complete the survey. It helps tremendously in planning more events like this. I really will use that to plan the next upcoming webinars that we have. So if you would please do that, I would really appreciate it. And if there are any questions, we do have time for questions. You can pop them right into the